We're going to talk about area lights within Vizrt T4, and you can see that we have a scene set up here. Our scene consists of basically just two rectangles here. One is a wall, one is a floor. We have a version 4 material on these rectangles, and you can see we have a third object here. It's a 3D primitive, the torus. We're going to add a material on it just like we have on our floor and our wall, and to do that on the torus, we just need to right click on the container and we can say add material version 4. If you're going to light something within Vizrt T4, you'll need a material on it. Lights within Vizrt T4 are a bit different than 3. Gone are those scene-based 8 lights. Now we control our lights with a container or a group. So we're going to drag a group down here. For the moment, we're going to rename this light. Before we do anything else, there's a couple of settings that we need to make sure here. So one, we want to make sure that our render mode is set to version 4. So we're going to come into our Vizrt T scene settings here. Next to this little compositing or render option here, the 4, we're going to set our render engine to version 4. We're then going to go back into our global settings here. And within our asset placement, we need an HDR map or environment map. So here we have a black studio setting, and if I click on it, we have other HDR images here. So I'm just going to replace that HDR image with another one right here, and you can see how that affects the scene. Lastly, we want to go into our global settings of our scene settings again, and we just want to make sure our shadows here are on because we will be adding shadows to this as well. Now we want to go over to our scene tree here, and we added that container that has a light. So we're going to add a light to it, and to add a light, there's two ways that we can do that. One, we could go into our built-ins, into the global, add our version 4 light here, and or you could right click on the container and say add light version 4, and then you choose. In this case, we're going to choose an area light. So we're just going to do it that way. I'll just get rid of the other way that we did it. Now we're left with one area light, and an area light is defined by a square area, and it sends that light out equally within that square. So to represent this in a real world, this would be like a light panel. So now that we have the area light added on our container, we can control the light through our container's transformation. And an area light can be controlled by all 3 parameters. That means we can use the position, the rotation, and the scaling to affect it. So you can see here as I reposition our light left and right using the X position, how it affects this. And when we use it on the Y here, we move it up and down, it affects the scene again, and then we can move it back and forth or forward and backward in Z space, and it affects the scene further. Likewise, we can use the rotation on this setting, and we can rotate it on the X, the Y, and the Z as well. And again, we can also use the scaling on this as well. So if you click on the light, it will take you into the light properties. Again, since this is an area light, it will give you the selected properties for this. We have a color option that we can change. So we can change the color, and that affects the entire environment. We also have an intensity that we can lower and or increase. And then we have a diffuse intensity as well. There's a reset button next to each one of these. So if you just want to reset it back to what it was, and we'll change that back to white. So with your area light, you can have multiple area lights within a scene, unlike the directional light where you would only want one light within a scene. So this is one way to light a scene using the area light.